What is up, YouTube? That's here, and today I'm back playing some more Pokemon VGC Reg I action, and today we're actually doing a team building guide showing you guys the #1 trick that I use to make creative teams. A lot of people say, your teams are so creative. How do I do that? I'm going to show you the exact trick that I use in every single one of my team building sessions. These are some of the teams that I've made pretty recently, and they always feature like one or two really off-meta mons, and for some reason, I can make them work when a lot of other people can't, and I'm going to show you guys how you can make them work and how you can like eke out the space for these niche off-meta picks and actually have them work in your own team. So that sounds like fun. Let's hop right into it. I think the #1 thing that we actually want to work on is creating room in teams for these off-meta picks to shine. One really good tip that I would recommend is going and looking up like usage stats from like things that have done well. If there's a Pokemon you want to feature, go look at all the different teams that Pokemon is used in. Look at its creative partners. I think a lot of people like to skip the learning process and go straight to the anti-meta without really getting a good understanding of what the meta is. If you guys want to be a really good anti-meta like rogue player, you have to understand how to play standard first. That's the #1 requirement. There is no shortcut. You have to get a lot of that memorization in of how people like to play the game at like a base level. So that being said, the first thing that I did here was I made a 252 super standard Koraidon team. Nothing spectacular about this team, just 2v2 squads up on all the mons, and you can see we also named all of our mons like what we're trying to do. We're trying to feature Koraidon in this video. We have double supports, we have double sweepers, and we have a secondary restricted with control. I think another big thing about my team building is I like to double up and make sure one mon is not doing all of the work for the whole team. So you don't just want one support, you don't just want one sweeper, you need a secondary one with a completely different defensive typing to still fill that role in case your main support or sweeper can't get the job done. But I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself. So that being said, you really just want to get a good understanding of like base like mons. So like 2v2, 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 these are all very standard moves. These are all very standard terras. You're not going to see anything like out of whack here. You know, this flutter would go well getting boosted in the sun by the Koraidon. You can enable the walking wake, get speed boost as well, pins things with like snarls. This is a pretty standard looking Koraidon team. There's nothing spectacular about this one. So how could we make this team creative? Is there a way to do that? This is where I'm going to be getting into what the actual trick is. The trick to creating creative teams is combining mons in already existing teams and cores and opening up slots for other mons. So for example, if we were to take this team, we could actually combine the role of sweeper with like good defensive typing and coverage and control restricted into one mon. It would look something like a Palkia origin here. And so you see, if I were to, you know, give myself a trick room restricted with like a really good like water dragon typing, that's a Palkia. And if I add Palkia here and take out these two mons, what I've done is I've given myself a free open slot to do anything at all I want with. And same thing, we want like our support 1 here. What if we were gonna combine the support 1 with support 2 to have like a good defensive type for the Koraidon that still provided a lot of like speed control, damage mitigation? That could look something like a Klefki. And so you see we're combining 2 mons into 1 to fill the same role of support and sweeper / control restricted. And it's going to give us a lot more freedom to fit in those weird mons a little bit later. Now you may be wondering, how did you come to understand that Palkia is the perfect fusion of, you know, Ice Rider and Walking Wake? Well, I guess that's something that does come with experience, but you start to think like, what mons get the moves that I want? What I actually was looking for was a mon that got Trick Room, was bulky, and had Water Dragon defensive typing. That's only gonna be something like a Palkia, right? And you don't have to run Origin Palkia, but I think that as we start to like flesh out the team, you're going to see what I mean. Let's go just make the new team and start over from scratch right here. And again, this is all being done on Showdown here. So the mon we're trying to feature is Koraidon, right? I just think Koraidon's a cool mon. I don't use it all that often, but it's pretty creative, right? I think that this Pokemon skill ceiling has not yet been reached. And then we were talking about adding a Klefki here. If I can type Klefki. So Klefki is actually really cool because it's a fusion of like Grim and Amoonguss here. It gets the Prankster like Grim does, it gets screens like Grim does, and then it has that defensive coverage to be able to pivot in and cover up the Koraidon's fairy weakness. So unlike, you know, Koraidon, Walking Wake, and Grim, which all of that fairy weakness, now we have like good defensive pivots back and forth. I really, really like that. We're also talking about adding that Palkia, like we said. And I think I'm going to look at Palkia Origin for now. There's going to be a couple things I want to do with Palkia Origin. This is one of my favorite mons. 120 base speed is really cool. 150 special attack is really cool. I think this mon is definitely creative in its own right. So again, the way that you come to find Palkia there is just by looking up like water dragons, they get Trick Room and stuff like that. It's not that hard. When you're on Showdown, you can just search like mons that learn like specific moves, and you search Trick Room. It shows every. Let's go search Trick Room right over here and show you guys. Because again, this is supposed to be a guide aimed towards beginners. But let me know if you guys agree with this idea. Do you guys do the same thing in your own games, in your own team building? Let me know. This is what works for me. And you may be wondering, like, I don't know how to you know, combine teams. I don't look up usage stats. I don't know those things. Well, combined aspects of your old teams. A lot of you guys that watch my content for like, you know, years, you like, I remember this team in Sword and Shield, and like it's like a new version. And so you're always making new versions of your team and finding things to cut and combine and adapt on an already existing formula. That's the secret. You can always do that. There's always like fat or like weird, you know, tech that can be cut from teams and slotted in with other mons that fulfill those same roles. Remember, like I said, we're looking at Trick Room, and so when I said it, I wanted to bulky restricted with the Trick Room, I could have added like Lunala, and I could have went Lunala and combined like the Flutter Mane aspect with the Calyrex too, and had like a ghost one. I think the Palkia is going to be cool for what we're trying to do here. But you see, there's not that many restricted to get Trick Room, so it's like it was obviously going to be Palkia based off what I already had going. From there, I think the fourth mon here is going to be the last thing that we really need to condense. If you remember, our team that we had before was right here. And the one thing that we're missing here is redirection, right? Because we kept the Koraidon. Again, I'm getting way ahead of myself here because this is also the first time I've ever had to explain this. But realistically, when you're combining all these different things, you still need to keep the like, I guess, board presence and tech that you have intact. You still need screens. That's why I have Klefki. We still need like, you know, big damage from this slot. That's why we kept it. You know, we're losing things like Lance and things like that, but I think that's okay. We can make up for that with other AoE mons in the back. And so if we were to combine these like last two mons into like a couple different slots, I don't think we need anything on this flutter. We don't need Taunt on this team. It's not required. We don't need Icy Wind if we give ourselves a different speed control mon. But we do need something like redirection. So a couple people might probably be thinking like, oh, you need Ogerpon. Ogerpon's really good here. But then Ogerpon would make it so we don't have the redirection. Sorry, the speed control. I think the mon that works best here is going to be something like a Jumpluff. So it's going to be like a fusion of the Amoonguss because it gets access to things like Rage Powder, but it also gets access to things like Tailwind, which is, you know, speed control kind of like the Flutter. So it combines all the good aspects of the Flutter and all the defensive aspects of the Amoonguss into that one slot. Do you see how like we're combining mons and we're basically opening up slots? Now we have just two complete extra slots to do whatever we want with. If you take a look at all my different teams, you know, and I will say we use a lot of the weird mons that we add, but like, there's no reason a Blaziken should exist on this team right here, but it works because we made room, because we know that the team functions perfectly fine with like Bundle, Giratina, Enamorus, and Solgaleo. That's how the team works. Like Blaziken's just extra credit, and it helps in those tech matchups. So going back over to this one here, we have two extra slots, and this is where when I'm just building teams, what I like to do is just think of like really good like 2-mon cores you can just slot into things like Tatsudozo, like Torn Ursh, like, you know, any sort of other thing, Indity Armorage. There's so many different things you can just kind of slot on those little 2-mon cores that work. I think the one that I'm going to pick for this one is going to be Cress and Ursaluna. And so now we have like a weird, cool Trick Room mode if we want it. We have screens for damage mitigation. We have Trick Room here. We have redirection. We have everything that that other team had. But we also have like much better defensive typing as well. I think that's also another thing worth talking about is like defensive typing. I don't think people talk enough about defensive typing. You can still see we have a bit of a weakness to Ice, being on Koraidon, Jump Up, and Ursaluna. But all three of those mons usually terrestrialize into something that not only gains a neutrality to Ice, but more often than not, like on Koraidon and Ursaluna, sometimes resists the Ice. So it's actually not bad to have that Ice weakness. And also another thing about Ice is there's not that many Ice mons that stab their Ice moves in these formats. Like things get Icy Wind, but that's not stab. It's not that strong. You can have an Ice weakness and be fine. That being said, we have like we have double weakness to Flying, double weakness to Dragon, and double weakness to Fairy, but we have like good pivots in for those things, being on Klefki in a lot of those situations. So this is a pretty cool team. I think this is a lot of fun. And now what I'm going to do is just start building it. I want to say too as well, if you guys like these sort of team building guides and you want to see more, think about dropping a sub. Like, I'm trying my best to make the best, most consistent content on YouTube. I upload every single day. We have, you know, a bunch of different rentals being shown. We do Patreon team fixing videos. I just got done doing a travel vlog for my NAIC trip where I used heavy duty boots Mewtwo and got, I went 5-3 at NAIC. Pretty cool stuff. If you guys want to join me on for the journey, we'd love to have you. But yeah, we're getting back into this, and we're actually going to build this team from scratch and show you guys exactly how I like to hit all my numbers, and then we're going to play some games with this team as well. So that being said, we still want to make this team creative. Like, yes, we have some creative mons. Klefki's a little bit weird. Palkia's a little bit weird. A lot of people are probably just, like, malding in the comments, saying, like, that's a Palkia clashes with Koraidon because you can't use Hydro Pump into Sun. I mean, you can, but it's bad. And you're right, but, like, we can make this work here. I think that this team has a lot of synergy going for it. I think the fact that we can put something like Telepathy on this Palkia to be able to pair it with Ursaluna using something like an Earthquake is actually really cool, because you can Earthquake next to this, you can Earthquake next to this, you can Earthquake next to this. Are you starting to see the synergy here? This is a pretty fun and creative way to use Pokemon that you wouldn't normally see play with. Like, you do not have to just use Rilla and Sin Miraidon. You don't have to do that. You could do so many different things. This game has basically an unlimited amount of opportunity to be fun and creative and feature like off-meta wacky stuff. You just have to lean into it, and you just have to create the lines that you want. One tip that I like to recommend to people, if you're trying to like feature like off-meta and like wacky and wild things, I want you to, instead of thinking how am I going to set this up, I want you to think of the end of a game where you just won using whatever combo you're trying to make work, and then work backwards. So what things do you need to add, and what pitfalls can stop you from getting those things? So for example, like if we want to win out with like a crazy cool Palkia set with like Spatial Ren and just like blow everything up, the thing that would stop us from doing that is like Dazzling Gleam Miraidon, you know, Amoonguss could potentially spore things, speed control, like things like that. And so once you start to realize what your holes are in those situations from you actually getting like 4 knockouts with that Palkia, you know, redirection could slow us down. That's another one. You start to realize what tools you actually need to add to make sure you don't fall into those holes. Work backwards from an end game that you already wanted to get. So that's a pretty cool little tip and trick. That's a little extra one right there. But let's start building this team. Let's start really getting into this. What I like to do is just add moves that I know that I'm going to want on this team. You don't need to just finish Koraidon first. I think that's always like a bad play. Let's say I just 100% finished this Koraidon, went through all the EVs and did all the calcs and everything like that. Basically, what I'd be doing if I did that before working on all my other mons is making every other mon on my team like bend the knee to Koraidon and have to make this weird Koraidon set work before really even knowing what I want to do. Now, I think a better idea would be to just add like 1 or 2 moves on every single mon to get a good understanding of its role and its point in the team, and then from there, then I'll start working on things very slowly and everyone gets better together. I think that's actually a really underrated part of team building. People like to just go 1 mon at a time, and that is not how you do it, because you get at the end and your last mon is having to patch like a million holes that it honestly just can't patch. Versus if you build them all together slowly, you can, you know, cover up for little holes as you see them coming. So we don't need to do items, we don't need to do terras, we don't need to do EVs yet. We just need to add a couple moves we know we're going to want on this mon. I'm going to want Flame Charge. I want Flame Charge. I think it's a good move. I think speed control is really good, and I don't want Jump Up and Crest to have to do everything. So I think that Flame Charge is very viable here. Do I know if I want any other moves? You know, a lot of people like to use Collision Course on Koraidon. A lot of people like to use Close Combat on Koraidon. I don't know if we need to use those moves on Koraidon. I don't think it's like required to use those moves on Koraidon. So I'm just gonna leave it. Like, we're just gonna leave it. We don't know what we want to do yet. Klefki, we know we want 2 things. We know we want Reflect, and we know we want Light Screen. One really cool thing about Klefki too, that it gets that Grimmsnarl doesn't, is actually Trick Room. If I wanted a Trick Room on my Klefki, I definitely could. So that's something that we want to keep in the back of our mind, but dual screens is what we want out of this guy. And I think Klefki is just like such good defensive typing with Koraidon. Very, very cool stuff. We know we want this Palkia to Spatial Rend. We know we want to Spatial Rend. And if you're ever wondering, like if you're ever like caught in a situation where you're trying to be creative and you need inspiration, right? Go back to the initial team that you actually drew the inspiration from. Remember, all of these teams are like cut fusions of like a bunch of other teams. And you can fuse like 3 or 4 different teams together when you do this too. You can take little 2-2-2 aspects of other cores, fuse them together. Go back to that first team. If you're thinking like, this Palkia, like, I don't know what to add on it. Go look at what its initial inspiration was, the Walking Wake, and think like, oh, I could add Flamethrower. Palkia gets Flamethrower. I could add Draco or Spatial Rend or Big Water Attack. Palkia doesn't get Snarl, but go back and look at the way other people like to play the mons that you're trying to be inspired by. I think another little tip here that you guys can take in your own games is you want to look at a mon and you want to make that mon into like something else. Like I'm trying to make this Jumpluff not into the best Jumpluff it can be. I'm trying to make this Jumpluff into the best fusion of Amoonguss and Fluttermane as I possibly can. And that looks different than if I was trying to make a Jumpluff set. It does. So if I'm trying to make this Palkia into the best walking wake it can be, it might have something like Flamethrower on it. That's definitely an option that it could have. So just think about that when you're building your own teams. Your goal is not to make each Pokemon the best version of itself. Your goal is to make it fit the right role and the right hybrid fusion of other roles that you're trying to, shove it into. Like make it fit in the box. Anything can fit. Anything's possible. For this Jumpluff, I think that we do want both of these moves. Rage Powder, Tailwind. We could put Sleep Powder if we wanted to have Spore Tech from Amoonguss, but I think these are fine right now. Cresselia is a bit of a hard one. We know Cresselia is going to want Trick Room, but like I don't even know if I want Trick Room on this team. Because I'm kind of looking at this team thinking like I could go with a fast Luna. I could make an Icy Wind Crest work here. I know that sounds crazy, but like Palkia outspeeds things like Shadow Rider after an Icy Wind. So let's try that. Let's be creative and a little bit different and go with Icy Wind Crest. Luna's actually a pretty easy one. I think these guys are usually always built basically the same. Like this is the set that I want. I don't need to be weird about it. That's just the set that I want. I think it's a good set. I don't think there's anything really wrong with it, and I'm fine with that. So since we've gone through one iteration of the team, what I do is I go back to the start and I think, what else do I want to add? I'd like to have Protect on my restricteds, so I can play a little bit longer game and not have to risk everything every single turn. I can wait and see what our opponents tear it into. I think it's pretty solid. And this is where things are going to get dicey. If you remember, we're trying to be creative. Whenever I make teams, I like to have fun. And sure, I could go with something like Flare Blitz and Close Combat here. Is that fun? Everyone does this. I want you guys, when you're building your teams, just try and think of other ways to get jobs done. What if there was a way to make them over-respect our Koraidon? To where Koraidon pulled in like a lot of threat, and Koraidon could use an assist, give the pass to one of our teammates to make our teammate the big carry, and then our teammate wins the game. Remember that situation I was hypothetically throwing out a little bit earlier where Palkia gets all the KOs with the big spatial runs? There's something we can do here. We're going to try and set that up, because we're going to use Dragon Cheer. We're going to be Dragon Cheering our Palkia to make our Spatial Rend a guaranteed crit. And Koraidon, you see we have Flame Charge and Dragon Cheer, it's support. The last move on this guy is going to be Breaking Swipe. You may be wondering, that's okay, that is creative. This is cooking. Like, this sounds actually really fun. And that's why you're using Palkia Origin over something like a regular Palkia. That 20 base speed means you function at a little bit higher speed tier than a lot of different things. This is a cool set. But you probably think to yourself, like, I'm not creative enough to figure that out. Anyone can be. Like, really. The goal here, when you looked at the Koraidon, it wasn't to build the best Koraidon. It was the goal that I had in mind when I was theory crafting this in my head was have this Palkia. Palkia gets a bunch of chaos with Spatial Rend because Palkia is like the cool thing that I like. It's the creative mon. What other off-meta tools can I add to help Palkia succeed in those situations? Remember things that I said that like slowed Palkia down, like things like redirection and other stuff like that? It'd be hard to make Palkia work in that situation, but Dragon Cheer can't be redirected, and it lets us just pop the redirection in one turn. And remember, if they're redirecting with one, they can't be attacking with both. So that means if I go Dragon Cheer Palkia, pop their redirection, we trade our Koraidon in for one of their mons, because Koraidon is generating a lot of threat because it's the general better restricted on my team. I check out the restriction, they take out my Koraidon, I bring on a Jumpluff, and then now I have 2 turns of like Rage Powder redirection, and I just go pop everything with Palkia and I win the game. Right? That's a flowchart that I created from working backwards from thinking of things that gave me problems from stopping Palkia to win. I know that probably seems way too crazy, way out there. That's how my brain works. but hopefully you guys can understand how that kind of all comes together. And you guys can do these same things too. It's just a matter of like looking at what Mons learn, what moves, and thinking like, oh, I've never seen anyone use that move, never seen anyone use that move, and trying your best to make it work. It's all just trial and error too. Like this might be terrible. I hope it's not, but it might be. We're just gonna play some games when we finish it and find out. So that's Koraidon set. I think for this guy, I think I'm gonna add Thunderwave. Thunderwave here. If I can type them out. Thunderwave right there. And then the last move, I'm just going to put Dazzling Gleam. It's 80 base, like special attack, like stab. Like it's not even bad at all. Like I like that. Nothing wrong with that at all. As for Palkia here, I think I want Protect, obviously. And I think I am going to have Flamethrower. I think I actually like the Flamethrower here because this will check like Zenta like really well, especially in the sun. And then I think I am just going to go Spatial Rend and Hydro. And Palkia doesn't get any other water moves. Like I'm not going to go Chilling Water. We're not always going to have the sun on the board. Like I can just pop in and Sin. Like that's fine with me. I think that's fine. Like I just hit your Hydro. It's not that hard. This guy's a little bit weird. I think for Jumpluff, I don't know if I need Protect. I really don't know if I need it. I'm going to go Sleep Powder. And then, what move would you guys go with here? There's so many good moves. Encore, Endeavor. It gets Fling, King's Rock. If you see, like, there's so many little things Jumpluff could do to, like, give us an out that we would not have. Helping Hand, Leaf Storm, Pollen Puff. That's so good. Pollen Puff's really good here, actually. Strength Sap's another good one. I think a lot of people probably go Encore here. Sunny Day's another viable one, though, too. I'm going to go Encore. So I can trap their... Like, we trade Tailwinds, and then I just trap them in Tailwind. I like that. I can change it. I don't need Protect on this thing. Cresselia. We know we're going to want Lunar Blessing. It might not be a bad idea just to put Trick Room here, just to have it. And then I'm thinking, like, what we want in this, like, last spot. I'm a fan of Psychic. Like, honestly, like, just... Or I'm going to go Moonblast here. I think I've seen a lot more Urshi Darks on ladder, and I think this is fine. I don't want to just get got by Urshi Dark, so this is fair. Psychic would be better against Urshi Water, but honestly, like, our team's great against Urshi Water, so it shouldn't matter. We shouldn't need Psychic. This is better into POW and stuff like that, too. I vibe with it. Ursaluna, we already got the set, so that is all of our moves for our first, like, preview of this team. And let's start adding items, are the next thing I like to add. Let's start the Ursaluna since it's very standard here. We're going to go with the Flame Orb, obviously. Cresselia is a bit of a weird one. I think Cresselia can go with a couple different items here. Citrus is good. Mental Herb is good. Safety Goggles are really good. I think the safest play is Goggles here. Yep. It's the safest play is Goggles. This is going to be Sashed. Palkia has to hold its Illustrious Glow, but it also gives itself a 1.2 boost to these two moves. So it's actually like... It's like holding a Mystic Water and a Dragon Fang at the same time, and it can't be knocked off, and you don't take the double damage from knockoff. It's actually really good. Klefski's going to be holding the light clay, and this is where I think that the team is going to start to be like, ooh, this is cooking. I'm going to put a Cloak on here. I like that. I like that. So people are going to lead in Sin. They're going to get the Intimidate. It's going to stick. They're going to think we're Orb. And they're going to fake out, and I'm going to be able to do my thing. That's so sick. I'm always going to be able to stick that. That's so nice. I really, really vibe with this. And remember, guys, Dragon Cheer, I'm going to go over it again. It gives yourself a +2 boost if they're a dragon to their crit ratio. So Palkia would normally have a 0 crit chance. If we use Dragon Cheer on Palkia, it's going to make it so all of our moves gain 2 stages of crit, which is actually going to make them not 66% chance, because you only can go up to 3 stages. It goes to 50% chance at 2 stages. And then from there, Spatial Rend itself, this move has a high crit ratio, which is going to make yourselves 3 stages, which is 100%. It goes 25, 50, 100. I know it's so weird how that works, but that's how it works. So that's cool. I think this is a cool set. And the next thing I like to do, I like to save my Terras for last. I like to start working on my EVs here. Because I got to start thinking, like, what do I really want to do with this Koraidon? I don't need a lot of damage, which means I actually can probably get away with something stupid like this. I don't think there's a problem with, like, full speed. I'm not seeing an issue with, like, full speed, like, at all. Because, like, I want to go first. I want to lose a speed tie to, like, a Miraidon or, like, a POW or something. I'm going first. And then from there, I generally say, especially if your HP is a lower stat than what your other defensive stats are, you just put points in HP. So you could do something like that, and then throw like your last 4 like here. It doesn't really matter. But there's a better way to do that. You cut that last 252 up into 244, because remember, EVs are a little bit weird. I'm going to go over this for people that are new to team building here. But the first 4 matter at level 50, because everything's set to level 50 in VGC. And after that, it's every 8. So we go 4, and then plus 8 to 12, plus 8 to 20, 28. Do you see like when we're at 20 right there, it's at 178? And then if we were to add 4, it's still at 178. That 4 doesn't help you there. The next kicker would be 28 here. So if we add 4 to that, that's where we get to 179. So every 8 after the first 4 is the rule of thumb there. So instead of like a 252 here, what we can do is we can take that last 8 that's attached to that 252 and cut it up into a 244, and then cut that 8 points that are remaining into 2 sets of 4 for here. So this is not like super complicated stuff, but it matters. You know, and there might be situations where I want a little bit more SPDF. Maybe I can go down to like 212 HP and put the rest in SPDF to live like a Life Orb, Shadow Rider, Astral. That's a calc that we can make after we play a few games with the team and figure it out. But just for understanding how a set works, this is a good bulky Kyurem set. Nothing too spectacular, nothing need to be worth riding home about. So let's go to the Clef Key. So Clef Key's pretty cool. 75 base speed's actually kind of nice. What I'm going to do here is get myself up to 104. This is going to let us outspeed things like Iron Bundle and Fluttermanes and stuff like that if we stick a Thunder Wave on them. So if I were to stick that, I'd be able to outspeed on subsequent turns. Same thing would work if we had like a Tailwind up and they didn't. So 68 points sounds like a lot of investment, but I'll definitely take it. It also just lets us outspeed like a bunch of other weird stuff. And then we're going to go full HP investment here. And then we're going to think, like, do we really care more about defensive attacks or special defensive attacks? And if we're trying to think of what the role of this Clef Key here is, it's to stop Dazzling Gleams, Moonblast. Those are all special attacks, fairy attacks. So I just want to max this out. Probably 180. And then I'll put my ult right there. And then I don't know if we're playing for... We are right to the bump there. And so you see, when we actually combine our nature, which is a 10% boost, and EVs, we can get a situation where sometimes an 8 will go from 141 to 143, an extra 2 points right there. And then we just cake those last 4 points, or last 8 points, and cut them up right there. Easy peasy. It's not that hard to make an EV spread like this. And again, there are situations where we might want to take some points out of some other stats, make just a little bit more in defense, maybe a little bit less speed. That's definitely viable, but I think it's fine. There's nothing too spectacular to write home about. The next thing we want to do with this Palkia is try and think what the main role of the Palkia is. And it's to do damage, but we need a lot of bulk on Palkia to actually make this guy work. So we got to think, like, how fast do we want this thing to be? A base 100 ends up being 167 right here. This lets us outspeed a base 100. This lets us outspeed Landorus. And this lets us outspeed Garchomp. I don't think that, like, we need to be that fast. We honestly only need to be this fast to outspeed something like a Shadow Rider if we had an Icy Wind from our Cresselia, so that's worth noting. But I think being all the way up here, I don't really have a problem with that. It was 136 to outspeed Garchomp. And the only reason why it's like worth it is like you see it every once in a while, and like Garchomp could just pin us with like an Outrage or a Dragon Claw or something. I don't want to lose that. And I think you might as well just do that. I know it looks so weird, but it's kind of worth it. And like honestly, I think we actually should put even more points in speed, because there are things like Roaring Moon that would outspeed. Like, we got to think, like, Palkia is actually a pretty fast mon. Let's sort this by speed and think exactly how much speed we need. So Palkia is a 120, right? It's actually pretty fast. So it'd be nice to not get guarantee outsped by Sneasler. It'd be nice to outspeed Roaring Moon. It'd be nice to outspeed Iron Valiant, outspeed Whimsicott, right? These are all things that I think it's valuable enough to outspeed to actually justify a full speed investment. And it also throws off calcs for people that are like speed creeping things that outspeed Whimsicott and Valiant and stuff like that, because those Pokemon do exist. So I actually don't have a problem with just full sending a 252, like, full speed into this Palkia. I want to know exactly how fast I am, and I think that's the most important thing about a set like this. Maybe wondering, like, what else do I really need to do here? Should I be putting a lot of points in special attack? It's hard to say, right? I think you should put some points in special attack, but you don't need to put a ton. I think we're probably going to end up with something a little bit like this is what I'm looking at here. This is all you need to... This would KO a Kyogre if we crit the Spatial Rend into like a standard like Mystic Water Ogre. So that works for me. One thing I might want to check here if I want to run a calc here. So I'll plug in like a Palkia. And we'll plug in Palkia Origin. And let's plug in a Zamazenta. So a standard, like Zamazenta, just blank set these guys to 50, put it in doubles, and let's put Flamethrower here. How much damage does Flamethrower do against Zenta? Not doing a lot from a Palkia origin. If we were to give ourselves 212, which is what we have here, it doesn't really do that much. Like, that's a wrong Zenta too, by the way. Sorry, Zamazenta. We want to be Zamazenta Crown. They're Reg-Eye bulky attacker. That's basically what you see on the ladder. So 46 is the roll on that thing, because they have like 100 points usually in HP. Put it in the sun, it's 70. If we get it a crit, you see how that KOs? And that leaves a little bit of wiggle room in case they want to have some SPDF. So we have a 50% chance to crit if it's, because it's not like a high crit ratio move, but like, I'll take that. That's definitely like worth it. It means we could, even if we want to outplay that set specifically, we could even drop a lot of this out. We can go to 140 and get that. But I think the 212 is fine. It might be a little bit too much investment, but I want to make sure that we can KO things even if they're heavily SPDF invested. This guy's Sash, so you can honestly just like click the button. No particular problem with that. You want to be full speed on this guy. Having like heavy HP is good, so nothing wrong with that. Cresselia. We don't want Cresselia and Klefki to speed tie. I think getting Cresselia up to a 113 to outspeed things like genies and stuff like that is probably good. From there, Cresselia can still go like heavy HP investment just because like its other stats are super cracked. And then from there, we're going to play to bump on the SPDF stat, and we're going to put our nature into our higher stat because you get a 10% boost to whatever your nature's in. So we're going to find where the nature is, and then we're going to scroll this up to find the bump if we can. Right there. See? And then we just throw the last few points here. We put a 4 in there because we don't want to leave ourselves at 40. 36 is the kicker. That's the spread. Not that hard. EV training is pretty easy when you're just like trying your best to find spreads that work. And that's what a lot of the EV training is. Like what you see with this sort of EV training is like, I would use this for like 20 games. And then I'm like, dang, I'm getting KO'd by stuff I shouldn't be getting KO'd by. Then I would go run a bunch of calcs and optimize and stuff like that. But these spreads are usually good enough. Ursaluna is a bit of a weird one. I like to rock 0 speed Luna in a lot of situations, but on this team, since we have like Icy Wind potential and like Tailwind potential, I'm actually going to rock a fast Luna. I want to be right here. And this is going to be able to outspeed Genies if I have a Tailwind or a Thunder Wave or 2 Icy Winds up. And when I say Genies, it's like Tornadus base speed mon. So anything like 111 or slower, that we outspeed. So that'd be really good. And then from there, you can just rock full attack on this guy. Easy peasy. Boom, bing, bop, boom, bing, boom, bop, bam. And then another thing here is you kind of want to try and end, there we go. If we can end that in 9, we take 1 HP less every single turn. So I usually like just throw my extra points right there. Easy peasy. Pretty cool. So we take 1 less HP from burn every single turn by putting our HP there. And Ursaluna has a really high base HP, so there's not really like a reason to put a ton of points there in the first place. So that is the team. The last thing we have to do here is the Terras. And see how the Terras are the last minute get out of jail band-aid if you have like a problem that you could not solve through all of your team building. That's why I always like to save them for last, because now I feel I've covered every hole and now I can go as wild as I want with my Terras. So this Palkia, actually let's start with Koraidon. We don't need Ghost because we have Cloak. I think Fire is still probably standard, but I wonder if there is a better type than Fire, because I don't need to double dip like anything here. I think like Fairy could be actually kind of cool. What's Koraidon's biggest threat? Is it like Ogre? I'm gonna go Water Koraidon. I'm gonna try that. That's kind of saucy, right? You see how like I can just completely go nuts with these. Klefki does usually go Water, and I don't want to go too many waters. I might go Dark so I don't get taunted, Prankster taunted. I like that. Palkia Origin. So I could double dip my dragon. I usually like to go Fairy on my Palkias here, and this makes us just really, really good into Urshifu Water. Because normally they'll see, if they do ever bring the Urshifu Water and they're Scarfed, they would just full send the close combat into us, and I just like being able to flip on that Fairy Terra. You can also go Poison, but I think Fairy's a little bit better in some situations, so I'll go Fairy for this one. Jumpluff, we go Ghost here. Cresselia, this is where I think I really like Steel, because this makes it so you can't even like get hit by like, you know, Ursaluna's gonna have a hard time hitting you. Calyrex Ice, you know, we resist the glacial high horsepower doesn't hit because you levitate. Like I love Steel on this. And then Ursaluna. Normally you go Ghost here. We're going to go Dragon. It's another target for the Dragon Cheer. The Ursa Luna will be gaming. Like imagine a turn where I go lead Koraidon Ursa and go like Dragon Cheer, Dragon Terror the Ursa, protect, get the Guts proc, Koraidon gets taken out, and then I just bring out like Jump Bluff and I just go fast Tailwind, Ursa, Earthquake, GG, shake my hand, like double crit everything, game over, easy peasy, holy moly, look at those lines. That is the team. Hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys learned something. And this is a reminder, if you guys learned something and you want to see more weekly team building guides like this, where I show you guys a bunch of little tricks that I use when I make my own personal teams, think about dropping a sub. And yeah, let's go hop into some games and see how this works. Wish me luck. All right, here we go. First game's going up against Miraidon Kyogre, Tornadus Raichu. I think one really cool thing that I like to do with a lot of my teams as well is like you don't need to like outplay your opponents every turn or make like deep reads. You want to make teams that force your opponent to meet you at specific levels, and then you force them into making those plays, and you kind of just sit back and do your thing here. I could go Klefki here. I think Klefki's safe. If they want to lead Raichu and fake out, like that's fine. We can also just go Luna. Like I don't think Luna is bad here. What would be the problem with like Crest Luna into this? I'm just like asking questions. That looks like a really cool lead. I also really like Palkia. I'm gonna Koraidon. I think that we could have made arguments about Jump Off here, but like I think if you're going Amoonguss or something, you're big messed up. Yeah, that probably isn't it. So I think what I'm gonna do here is probably just pivot in. Let me make this screen a little bit different. That's fine. I think I'm just gonna pivot in here and go Protect. And then next turn just win. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to spout? Like, I don't care. Trick Room, like, go nuts. This is a Ursa, baby. He double dips water. Okay. What are you doing? Big damage. Trick Room. Oh! Oh! Yes. Yes. Okay. So we're going to Dragon Cheer here. It's going to be staggered, like, in a weird way, but, like, that's still damage. Yeah, it's great. Dunzo. You can trick him back if you want. Dragon Cheer. Oh! He tricked him back. So we got all the boosts right here. And here's Miraidon. Okay, so you're going to full send the Gleam here. So what I need to do is just lose this Mon, Protect, and then bring in something. Let's go. Helping Hand Gleam, right? Yep, there it is. So I could double protect Luna. I don't think I need to do that. Trick Room, Fodder Palkia, bring back in Luna, EQ out. Okay, they are going to Trick Room this back and pivot out. That's their plan. Okay, so we need to make a read. Yep. Reads. Bonk. It would redirect there anyways. And then I think we KO there. EQ baby. Oh yes. So we didn't even get to do the team the way like I wanted it to work, but like we still be taking those. Like all the way to the bank. Like every dragon weakness in the book. And we were just like, that's fine. Cresselia finishes off their Ogre 2. Chef's kiss level of cooking perfectly. Let's go to another game. We have Miraidon Lunala with Regieleki. And another Farigiraf. Kind of weird to sell these Farigraphs. Do I care? You know? I think that the Palkia aspect of the team is harder to use against Miraidon, but that's why the Luna and the Crest are the thing that we actually made room for in consolidating all those slots into just 4 Mons. And so you see, like, that's the thing that's helping us in one of our worst matchups, which is Miraidon. So I think they're probably going to lead in Sin. I actually think I can probably get away with something like that. And then close with those two. I think that we just win with Ursa here if I play it correctly. So let's go into it. Yeah, I think this is good. I think once we break the Lunala, we should be fine. So I'm going to see if they lead Miraidon Lunala. Regieleki in Sin. So they're going to see that they can intimidate there. So they might fake out it. I love that. I would love that. What do I want to do? I will flame charge here. And I will just put up a light screen. Because I don't trust what comes in. That is a unique choice. Miraidon, okay, works for me. Oof, take that speed all the way to the bank. Flare Blitz, awesome, works for me. I got no problem with this at all. No problem whatsoever. Okay, so I can Dragon Cheer here. You're gonna D-Gleam. But at the same time, like, I can just protect and EQ. I don't need to be weird. You know what I mean? Like, I can just do this for one turn. Like, what do you do? You know, you can rip a Draco into my Ursa, but then you have to be disrespectful. Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief. There's the Draco. Yeah, I lived that, though. Like, easy lived that. He lives it, too, because I don't have my Guts proc yet. That's nutty. But you know what? So am I. Breaking Swipe gets that KO, and I can pivot in my Crest to get ready for a Trick Room endgame. Love that. Nice. Not going to let them have that Luna if they wanted to. Breaking Swipe is clutch. And then they're going to try and fake me out here, and it's not going to work. And I'm going to Trick Room, and I'm going to win. Frigoraph, okay. Yeah, dude, Trick Room me. I dare you. I triple dog dare you to Trick Room me, bro. Let's see. What is the win con here? If I Trick Room with Cress and you KO with this with Psychic, like, that's a win for me. I just win with just Luna, I think. Ghost. Lamau. Yeah, go nuts. Rocky Helmet. Oh, cool. Yeah, get this guy off the board. Top play? Yo, you're not getting off the board fast enough. If you won't get it off the board fast enough, I will just, like, heal up. Alright, let's think about what they're going to do here. If they foul played, I'm going to let them eventually take this thing out. Like, Cresselia pins them right on. Like, we have all the tools we need. We can just keep using this. I can probably just get away with, like, Lunar Blessing here and be fine. Psychic's great, yeah. Parting. Into the Miraidon's getting KO'd here. Oh my gosh, value. Value. Now I don't need to care about anything. I just bring out Ursula and I win. Perfect. Nice. That's great. I can Trick Room back if I want. We just need to get a board state up where this guy's not as threatening. I'm trying to think if there's anything weird to do here. Yeah, that's fine. I wonder if they're going to try and flip the Trick Room back on me, but, like, Crest would outspeed a lot of those Mons. Yeah, they didn't even do that. I was going to say, because, like, we have Icy Wind and we outspeed both those guys anyways. So even if they did, like, flip the Trick Room back and kill my Miraidon, I just bring this out and click Icy Wind EQ and I win. Alright, we do this just in case. 2 turns on TR. I'm just trying to make dot all my T's and cross out my I's. Actually, let me think about that. Let me actually think about that, because, like, I forgot this Ursulina has a lot of speed investment. I might have messed this one up. Foul play in there would basically get the KO. You can't KO there, I don't think. So I should have Trick Roomed back last turn. Yep. There's the foul play. Knock off, we live. Oh, I'm such a gamer. And that's going to do it. That's the line that I wanted. That guarantee gets it. Cool. They're probably thinking, like, what is this team, bro? Oh, yeah, that should do it, though. Double hit on both. Speed drop on both. Sets up for Luna to guarantee KO, even if they have, like, a fast and sin. Oh, the Frigoraph lives, but, like, Frigoraph can't stop both these guys. Because I just pin with Moongeist. That's a bulky Frigoraph, but, like, Moonblast finishes it off. Cool. Still win, though. We took those wins all the way to the bank, and team's working. Like, it works great. I think this is awesome. Kyogre Lunala Bolt. I can probably full send this. Like, I think I can probably do away with both those. But at the same time, like, they can go Whims Ogre. That's kind of a hard matchup. I think I might just lead Klefki here. You don't want Fake out anything other than Rillo. You don't want to lead with that. So, like, Klefki, Cress, like, Luna, Palkia just crushes this. I don't need to bring Koraidon. That whole board excels at crushing Koraidon. And I don't need to give the Bolt a, like, steroid. Great lead for me. Reflex good. Reflex, Steel Terra, Trick Room does cook here. And then I pivot out for Ursa next turn. And just Dequeen. I like that a lot. So that way I don't get Encored. Yep. Dark move. Yep. Don't die because I put my Terra on. And now I break Sash on Pal. Pivot in. Worst thing they're going to do is go for like another Dark attack into it. And we're in a good spot. Ursa's going to be active. We can pin the Kyogre with Facade. Vibe with it. Show me the Encore. Ah, not falling for that one. Chief, he tried to Encore me in the back of my Trick Room. Look at that damage into Pal, bro. Crunch, not going to do it. There's our burn. Pivot back in the Crest. Let me think if I want to pivot back in Crest. No. It is them who is wrong. Cool. Protect Pal's fine. Light screen. Dunzo. Okay. Are you going to bring in Lunala here? I'm not afraid of your Lunala, like, at all. Yeah, I think this is fine. I think we eat this sucker, honestly. Because we have a Reflect. Dumpy. Let's see if that Ogre goes Ghost. Danny Phantom over here. Sucker. No, we got Reflex. Sword of Ruin Shred? Oh my gosh. Easy peasy, bro. Klefki busted. Lunala, better late than never. Trying to think. Yeah, scoop it up. Cool. Easy peasy. One more game. Let me know what you guys think about this team, though. Alright, that's like super standard. I wonder if that's Urshi Dark on this team. But I think I'm going to try the Koraidon Palkia. I'm going to try and make it work. I wonder if Klefki should be coming here. I know I'm definitely going to bring Luna. And then I think I want Cress here. Even though I really like Jump Love. You know what? Nah, I can't use Jump Love here. I can't. It's good, but I can't do it. I got to go Cress. Yeah, let's go. If they lead Miraidon, I'm probably going to go, like, Protect. Yeah, we'll see how this works. I got a couple lines. Oh, I'm gonna rip that Kali Ice into one. Watch this. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me. That's what we like to see, baby. Fake out, fake out, fake out, fake out. Woo, woo. Pop it. Flamethrower would also go. Actually, I should. Oh, good thing I didn't go Flamethrower. He fake outed. Here we go. Oof. Big damage. Big crit. Oh, look at that damage. I don't care if you Trick Room. I don't care. You think I care about Trick Room? Like, I honestly just don't even care about Trick Room. Like, it's fine. It's Trick Room. I can let you KO this. This Mon does nothing for me anymore. I'd like to just get this one in for free. So if I KO through there and I Protect... No, I don't like that. Pivot in there. Vibe with that. I thought about just nuking this slot, but, like, we're good. We're good. U-turns... AV U-turn good, but, like, it's fine. And now we can just, like, get... Like, we can pivot back and Trick Room. Our Trick Room, we're going to be able to take that guy out. Dumpied. Whoo, sheesh. Is this in Sin? Miraidon. I should underspeed that thing, but they have the damage there. I think I'm just going to Lunar and Protect. I want to see what they walk into. If you go for, like, Dazzle, that would suck, but, like, we'll see what happens. I don't need to Trick Room back. I don't think I need to. I think I have good tools here. I just got to get a little bit more health. Foul Play is fine. Doesn't do anything. Big Lunar. Nice. Yep, so we're just going her out. Cool. And we're going to take those wins. Yup, you bothering in Sin? Never heard of it. Big heals, too. Oh, I love this, bro. It's so good. Woo! Oh, yeah, it's AV and Sin. Forgot about that. Forgot about the AV and Sin. Alright, one turn Trick Room. So it's actually like a good play to just like chill here for a turn, I think. Don't need to ever go after that. It's actually a better play to go. Oh, the reads! I was going to say, it's always better to go after them right on that situation. That was sick. Sick. Look at this. Gaming. Where are you looking, bro? Boom. 100% crit ratio. Now what? Now what you do, huh? What you going to do? I'm going to end this at full. That was so nice. That was like chef's kiss level perfect cooking. Oh, yeah, I love it. I love it. Perfect. Teamwork's great. So yeah, that's how I like to build my teams in a pretty creative way. Remember, the trick is to fuse different mons into other options. So you keep the Koraidon, you fuse your screen setter with your fairy resist, you fuse your water dragon type and your trick room setter into like a bulky sweeper, you fuse aspect of your redirection and your speed control into one, and then you open up two completely like open slots to help you solve for bad matchups. I think that's like the number one key, is to find as many free slots like that to help you cover up for the bad matchups that you might find along the way. No matter what the meta is, no matter what's popular right now, the cool thing about this little technique is, let's say like right now Miraidon's really popular, so adding a Crest Luna is really, really good to check Miraidon. But if Miraidon loses, you know, power and we start seeing like a ton of Kyogre, you could add like a Gastrodon and something, or like, you know, a Serena or like a Rillaboom. Do you see like how that works? Like this makes, since we made a team that technically can function with just these first four, we made it so like no matter what changes in the meta, we have two slots to like deal with whatever is the flavor of the month team at the moment. And the next time I want to play this core, we can just swap it and upgrade it and change it and develop it once again. So hopefully you guys like this little video. If you guys like this sort of stuff, this is your last reminder, please think about dropping a sub on the YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to make more regular team building guides like this one. I feel like I got a lot of good stuff to say. I feel like I can help a lot of people, and if you guys agree, think about dropping the sub. And other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and other than that, peace out. I'll see you guys next time.